Hey everybody, this is Bennett. Welcome to Walking and Talking, the show where I walk and talk. I'm trying out this camera stabilizer. I'm not convinced that it's gonna be all that helpful, but we'll see. And right now I'm pointing the camera towards my face instead of pointing it outwards. And I'm not really sure what that looks like because I can't see the camera's screen right now, but I imagine it's maybe a little close up, might be a little bit claustrophobic, but we'll try it out. I'm not sure if I'll do this for the entire episode, and we'll see what the camera stabilizer looks like, or what the image looks like when I use the camera stabilizer. Oh, here's a groundhog. I wonder if this is... Remember that groundhog that I pet that one time? You think this is the same one? I'm gonna see if this guy will let me pet him. Hey, buddy. Hi, buddy. Hey. Well, he let me get fairly close, but not completely right up on him. You know what? I don't think that's the same groundhog, because the one that I petted last time, I think it might have been Walking and Talking number 8 or something like that. At the end of the episode, I saw the groundhog, and it let me get close enough that I could pet it, and it let me pet it a few times. But I imagine that groundhog has to be bigger by now, because that one I just saw is about the same size as the one that I petted, and that was a few months ago now. If you've watched previous episodes of Walking and Talking, you'll know that this is kind of just a procedure of sorts where I just continue talking for 4 hours without stopping, usually with nothing in particular to talk about. It's just kind of a process of seeing what kind of thoughts arise, and I probably don't need to go any further than that in trying to explain this. But I think one thing that's definitely involved is a kind of faith in the process, you could say. And I also think that it's an expression of a kind of truth that I feel in terms of how... In terms of how I'd like to communicate verbally, and something that I would like, if there's a message that I feel needs to be communicated, it kind of takes the form of this process for me, where it's kind of an endless process of thinking and talking, and it becomes evident that it could just go on forever. And even though there may be discoveries or insights or new perspectives encountered in this process, each one of them kind of leads to the next one, and over time it seems like it's just this continually changing perspective. And once I become kind of meta aware of this thought process going on in my mind, it's like each thought that I have, I kind of recognize how it's gonna change, like in the next moment, and it's harder for me to really become swept away in any particular idea, really, because each idea, once I start to investigate it, I become aware of a range of other ideas that seem perhaps contrary to it, or if not necessarily contrary, they're equally compelling. And sometimes when I'm just thinking, this can feel a little overwhelming to me. And especially in the world, being exposed to so many different perspectives all the time. And I feel like I can empathize with most of them. I can understand where most of these I can put myself in the shoes of most other people, and I can understand these ideas, and I can see what's compelling about them, and I can see how they're kind of marvelous in that they are another, each idea and each perspective is another manifestation of the same reality that we all inhabit. And I just keep getting exposed to one after another. And sometimes it can be hard to, well, it can be hard to strongly stand behind any one particular idea, except I would say the sorts of, you could call them meta ideas or perspectives that seem to encapsulate all of this, or they perspectives that seem to be aware of the multitude of perspectives and be able to kind of accommodate the existence of all these perspectives and ideas and perspectives like that, for me, tend to have more longevity in the continual kind of battleground of ideas that's taking place in the world and in my own mind. And so you could say that those are the sorts of ideas and perspectives that I am able to get behind more fully, or to really feel compelled to investigate further myself. And it's not that that anybody's perspective is like just something to reject as invalid, or that it just should not exist in the world. But I do think that there are perspectives that are more fragmented than others, or perspectives that are weaker and that they don't really hold up in a true exchange and comparison of perspectives, that like more fragmented perspectives seem to not be able to accommodate other perspectives, and they're able to accommodate very few or no other perspectives, and also they seem to come in conflict with other stronger perspectives that seem to corroborate with lived experience and our perceptions. Well, not deeper than our perceptions, but objective reality, in as much as that exists. Which I'm not saying that to denigrate the possibility of objective reality. But I'm kind of, I may believe in an objective reality to some extent, but I can get into that a little later. But for now, I'm kind of using it to say that there are perspectives in the world that people have that just really seem to go completely against observable reality. And what I'm calling objective reality, or what may indeed be objective reality, whether or not you believe it's truly objective or not, it's at least way stronger than certain more fragmented individual perspectives. Like, for instance, the flat Earth theory is one of these views that I think is incredibly weak when it's actually put to the test against observable reality and our entire collective worldview. Like, it's like that's a worldview that you really have to separate yourself from. I've confused myself here because I'm wanting to say observable reality, but it's true that, you know, from where I'm standing and from where you're standing, it's not apparent, it's not visually apparent to us right now that the world is spherical. But through the kind of structure of knowledge that we've built as a civilization, the knowledge of the world being spherical is completely integral to a worldview that is incredibly consistent with our observations, and not just immediate observations, but over long periods of time, and careful and calculated observations of astronomy, what we can see both through our bare eyes and through telescopes, and the even things that we experience undeniably, like the changing of the seasons. Gravity, the sun rising and setting, and so on. An entire vast and complex cosmology that we've built for ourselves over centuries. A worldview that also integrates pretty darn well with almost the entire structure of knowledge that we've built up in realms concerning all aspects of existence. But I'm a little bit I'm getting a little bit off here because I'm just using this as an example of a very like fragmented view, and now I've gotten myself into trouble because I'm going to have to qualify how it is that I could say that there's truth in such a viewpoint. Like, what do I mean by truth? If I told you before that I believe there's truth in all these viewpoints and perspectives, but then there's something like the flat Earth theory that is really going against truth in almost any definition of truth that is worth its salt. Flat Earth theory goes against that. And so do, a lot of other kind of outlandish claims that are in the past couple of years being more prevalent in our media and society and government. So, like, how could I say that there's truth or validity in that perspective, and that it doesn't need to be rejected? I'm not sure. I might be wrong about that. I might be wrong about this idea that every perspective has some kernel of truth or some amount of truth in it. But you know, suppose maybe I spoke to a flat earther, and they could probably associate with their argument several things that are true. Like, for instance, I've never seen with my own bare eyes the entire Earth in its roundness, and it's true that if I look at the horizon, it appears flat to my eyes, and so I guess there's truth in that. And it's true that my knowledge of the Earth being round has all come from, you could say, mediated sources, in that I've seen images of the Earth, of the round Earth. You know, photographs from space, drawings, globes, digital representations like that of Google Maps or Google Earth. And maybe there's like some desire for to question a type of knowledge that's not gathered by direct personal observation. I think maybe that could be like the crux of that issue for me. Like the thrust behind this, the urge to propose this theory that the Earth is actually flat, and there's this massive, incredibly deep and complex conspiracy that would involve an enormous amount of people working incredibly hard and working with incredible cooperation and perfect coordination in order to perpetuate the most bulletproof, flawless, perfect deception upon millions of people that the Earth is actually round, to deceive them into believing that the Earth is spherical when in fact it's flat. What motivation would these people have? I can't even fathom. And how this like massive, elaborate, and perfect conspiracy would manage to be pulled off flawlessly for decades and decades and decades. To just and to have this deception like perfectly integrate with our entire accumulated knowledge base, such that it would be nearly impossible for any of the deceived to discover the deception. How that could be pulled off flawlessly for so long is beyond me. Or it's also beyond I have a really difficult time putting myself in the shoes of someone who would believe that is plausible, or that is the more likely scenario than the round earth being actual objective reality. It seems like a person would have to have some very like strong psychic need to be able to create such an elaborate fiction in their mind. I mean, it's like at the center of it, there's this question like, you know, you've never seen the earth, you've never seen the entire earth with your own eyes. How do you know? And you could say, you know, you could say like the earth being round is this elaborate fiction that's been created, and everybody is just like going along with this created fiction in their minds that they haven't observed with their own eyes. But to me it seems that this other idea that the earth is actually flat, this involves a much more elaborate and far out and incredible fiction to be created. Or like a whole elaborate web of ideas to be created upon how and why this conspiracy could be perpetuated. And that seems like it's much. It seems like you're investing a whole lot in a reality that you can't observe. That you can't observe with your own eyes. Like I'm not looking around and seeing like holes in little slip-ups in the conspiracy. So I mean, in as much as I could, in as much as I can reject a viewpoint or reject what someone says is true, that's a viewpoint that I could reject. And so I might have to revise the thing I said earlier about, being able to empathize and understand almost all other perspectives. I mean, if I were actually to speak to a flat earther about this, there's a much better chance that I would be able to empathize with them as a person, and to understand what might be driving them to believe this. And in that empathy, maybe I would be able to come to appreciate that person's perspective in the world, or at least understand that idea in connection with the landscape of ideas, which are all connected and interacting with each other. And I could probably come to understand a little better why exactly that idea has its place in the world. But there's a lot of other ideas out there that I would reject in a similar way. Or that I would describe them in a similar way as not corresponding or integrating or agreeing with the the vast and kind of more sturdy web of ideas that have been grown and been built and linked together and integrated together in our understanding of the world. There's this vast web of those ideas that have really persisted and have a lot of strength. And they work with each other. They reinforce each other. And our observed reality reinforces them and corresponds with them. But a lot of ideas are coming coming into the public recently that that just completely conflict with this web of ideas. And I think proponents of these ideas would say that that their ideas are the actual truth, and that the more widely accepted base of knowledge that informs our world, that helps us understand and interact with the world, are actually a falsehood perpetuated by evil people. This is interesting in that I'm finding myself talking about knowledge and how it can, whether it's objectively true, how you can verify that it is. I'm thinking about and I certainly wouldn't want to say that just because a idea or worldview is the most popular one, that means it's objectively true, or that's even, very strong evidence for it being objectively true. I just walked through this puddle and my feet just got wet. Luckily my socks are wool so that my feet won't get cold. I know that I'm just like kind of wading into an area of philosophy that I'm sure hundreds of people have done a much more thorough and rigorous job of kind of parsing apart and explicating. And I've just kind of arrived at it without planning to talk about it. I really, came out with nothing to talk about, and then found myself talking about. I think I'm talking about epistemology now. But also, like, as I talk about this, and I talk about things like objective reality, I like become really aware of. Oh, here's some cool moss. It's sticking up its club things. It's like a little forest. Look at the moss. And here's these berries. Oh, there's a cool moth. There's moss, and now there's a moth. Whoa, that thing's cool. Wait, can you see it? Where'd it go? It just flew away. I'm not sure if I got it on the video or not. As I'm talking about these things like objective reality, I'm becoming keenly aware of. I'm just like becoming right now like more aware of the character or the quality right now of my own subjectivity, and I'm becoming more aware of the nature of these ideas about objectivity. I'm becoming more aware of the nature of them being ideas that, you know, just that are existing in my own mind, and I'm feeling this kind of shifting going on where when I talk about a reality that's existing outside myself, or objectively, or even just like intersubjectively, like a reality that is like kind of a large consensus reality, and I think about that existing kind of outside myself, I'm starting, like, I then become aware of this reality that exists within myself, it seems, or that my own subjectivity is like completely a prerequisite and necessity for well, at least for like to have this perception, let alone comprehension of an objective reality that exists without myself. Like, there has to be a self here in order to perceive something that's not self, that's like outside of me. And so if I imagine, and I can imagine the existence of a world that does not contain myself, and it continuing to exist, you know, with containing other selves, but that's still myself here, like imagining that's still my mind. And then conversely, like when I start to talk about this reality being maybe a construction that exists in my own mind, I have to, I then become like really aware that this mind that has this, like this, what I'm calling a construction of external reality, it has been completely shaped by that external reality and is completely a part of it. and the structure of my subjectivity, like like I really directly kind of feel its complete like dependence and inseparableness from what I'm conceptualizing and perceiving right now, with my own sensory organs as the outside reality, or objective reality, or external reality. And like just a moment ago, I was having this, as I was saying that, I was like just having this experience that like just for a flash there felt like extremely liberating, in that like I was just just now, just for a second, just feeling like this, just the inseparableness of what I'm describing here as a self and what I'm describing as external reality, and just experience the actual experience of observing myself talk about these things, and observing myself feeling a kind of emptiness of self, or feeling a kind of conditionalness of self, is well, it's hard to describe in words. But it was like, it's like I'm talking here, and I don't, there's something here, there's something observing the talking that doesn't actually feel like it's completely the agent of that talking, or it doesn't completely feel like the thing that is controlling that talking. It seems like there's a it's as if there's an experience happening now of talking. There's an experience of talking happening that doesn't feel like it's rooted in a self that's doing the talking. And it has a quality of that's of being an ever-present kind of truth, or something like that. As in, has a quality of a realization that a realization of the emptiness of the self that is Ben Bennett, or a realization of what Ben Bennett is not apart from the rest of reality. you know, of like digging down to the core. There's a cool rock. It looks like it used to be a brick or something like that, or a tile. Digging down to the core of you know, myself, and like trying to investigate like where's the core of agency here, and what's the core, where's the core agency, like the thing that's controlling Ben Bennett, like who's in the driver's seat. And also where's the core of experience, like what's at the core of experiencing what it's like to be Ben Bennett. And it's like as I really like investigate closer to that core, it seems like that's there, like it's like there's not a locality to be found there, and it's like it's as if the locality of those two things is maybe like all of existence, if that makes any sense. It's kind of like this feeling, if you feeling of infinite regress, like if you started zooming in on some particular, you know, smaller and smaller part of reality. So you like zoom in on a person, you zoom in on their hand, and you zoom in on the skin cell, you zoom in on the cell, you zoom in on one of the molecules in the cell, you zoom in on one of the atoms, and zoom in on the subatomic particles, you zoom in on, you know, one neutron or other particle in the atom, and you zoom in on the quarks or whatever it is that constitute that particle, and you keep zooming in, and then this feeling is as if you, when you kept zooming in, you then saw the entire large universe and could continue to zoom in with infinite regress, and that same universe was the thing that contained not only the original person that you started zooming in on, but also whatever it was that was doing the zooming is also contained within that universe that is being observed. Like the observer is observing a smaller and smaller portion of what appears to be a reality external to themselves, but as they zoom in more, that external reality, that smaller and smaller observed locality turns out to be a universality that they are themselves contained within. And it's as if what I am observing is turning out to be the thing that's doing the observing itself, and it has this feeling of endlessness. It has this feeling of timelessness, of not having a locality and not having a specific temporality. So it's like having it's kind of like I have like glimpses of that, just little glimpses of apprehending that with a kind of directness, and when I go to explain it with words, how directly I'm experiencing that while I'm explaining, is a little bit questionable, because maybe part of my mind is occupied with the verbalization. I just want to show you real quick. Here's like some remnants of chicken of the woods mushroom that someone else has already got to before me and cut off there. But this will keep growing here. Once the mushroom sprouts, somebody might cut it off and it might continue to grow that fruiting body on there. Chicken of the woods, if you hadn't had it, is a very delicious mushroom that it tastes more like chicken than chicken itself. But it's like, it's like having an experience that felt, just a little glimpse where that feels like, I could say it's like profoundly liberating, but at the same time, it destroys the notion of a self that's experiencing that liberty. It's like, not like it's not as if it's not like a feeling of like hitting the jackpot for myself, like that me as a person, Ben Bennett, has like come into possession of a certain type of experience and knowledge that I can hold on to and keep, and that will provide me with everlasting bliss or something like that. That's not really true, because like in the experience, it's like what's experiencing is what is having the experience is not exactly like can't really like be contained within like what can be identified as Ben Bennett. Like what we can identify as Ben Bennett, like what was having the experience is a little bit larger than that. And it's more like the feeling of who Ben Bennett is maybe able to like temporarily kind of like open up the shell of his identity and just allow like identification with like a broader reality to seep out or something, like allow what I'm identifying with to seep out of the like seep out of whatever confines my mind and like cognitive processes have kind of whatever barriers my mind has like put around whatever container that my mind has created to have this feeling of Ben Bennett's self. It's like temporarily we like just take the lid off of that, and then it's like then it's confusing then it's confusing whether Ben Bennett experienced something, or whether something else kind of experienced Ben Bennett, or kind of like experienced a kind of gray area between being Ben Bennett and being all of existence. But like, it's not like it's I can't, I definitely didn't like, I definitely can't say that I've like experienced all of existence, and that I could like tell you like the existence of, or tell you like the location of every atom in the universe or something like that, or it's not like I could tell you like the exact shape of the universe, or how many stars are in it or something like that. It's definitely not like I had any kind of sensory perception of anything more than I can perceive right now, just like with my eyes and ears around me. And it's not like some, it's definitely not like some external, or it's definitely not like I gained access to an additional knowledge or form of knowledge or anything like that. It's just like it's really just like in this process of thinking and talking. There's a chipmunk. It's just like it's like this process of cognizing, like folding in on itself or something like that. I'm not sure if I'm making much sense now. I might, there's like a creeping doubt here that I might be full of it, and that I can't, like, right now I couldn't. I was gonna say like, right now I can't honestly say that I'm not experiencing a self, but then I like kind of stopped because like as I was beginning to say that, I just kind of observed like the quality of my experience right now. And I just again felt like unsure of what exactly I mean by self, and like just in that observation of asking myself whether I'm experiencing selfhood or not, the experience of selfhood started to feel like a gray area, and like I couldn't say, it was like I couldn't say for sure one way or the other. Or Yeah. I mean, it's like, yeah, I am experiencing selfhood, but like, it's like it's interesting that like, that I say like I'm experiencing selfhood, because like that places that almost that like places selfhood outside of what's having the experience, and that I would say that that is indeed reflective of my experience right now. that that selfhood is outside of it, or it's like selfhood is myself is not completely containing everything that is here, I would say. But I guess now that I guess when I think about that, maybe one would want to go ahead and define the self as something that does contain everything that's being subjectively experienced. You know what I mean? Like maybe by definition, the self is the thing that has all experience. Here's some really bright fungus. It's like it could be. It could be that it could be that I just. I guess that's one possible definition of self is just like whatever experience that there is here is being had by the self, and so the self contains all of it. And I'm just trying to think about that, and like I'm wondering if I wonder if I'm like experiencing a sense of loss or something, in that like right now I'm not experiencing anything out of the ordinary. Right now I just I guess I would say that yeah, right now I'm just like here experiencing things, and it feels normal. I think like, yeah, like there's nothing to remark about, really. Like I'm just here. and like I can say like I'm here, I'm a self, I'm Ben Bennett. It does feel like maybe a little strange to hear myself say I'm Ben Bennett. Like it feels weird to hear myself say that or something. But not that's not anything like really abnormal. You know, probably anybody like having this experience of like standing alone or something, not in a immediately social experience situation, just like speaking aloud their own name would feel kind of funny. Or it kind of like draws some attention to your conception of yourself. At least for me, like when I do that, when I'm here like alone, I'm talking to you, but in a slightly in a you know, a removed sort of with a slight remove, and I just like hear myself aloud say Ben Bennett, I'm me, I'm Ben Bennett, and I just like think about that. It's slightly, it draws attention to my conception of myself in a kind of interesting way, and then that draws attention to you know, like this self, and the self as this concept, and myself in particular as a concept, and then what is here having the experience, and like they don't feel like they're they don't feel like they're exactly the same entity. Or maybe they are, but there's more there as well. But yeah, like all that said, like I it's also not untrue for me to say that I feel just like completely ordinary right now. But then, like, as I say that, like, as I say I feel completely ordinary, like, that doesn't seem to be the whole truth. And sorry, I'm trying not to say so much. I use a lot of filler words. I've become painfully aware when I, you know, try to speak without saying a filler word like like, etc. I'm essentially an like machine. And when, like, that's another example. You see, you heard me just say like really quickly right now, and just even in that sentence, I said like, without realizing it, just automatically. And that's another practice that, like, you see, I did it again. That draws attention to processes going on here that aren't entirely self, in that, you know, the Venn diagram of the words being spoken here and the self that is experiencing and controlling them, they're like, it's like not all overlapped. There's words happening here, and there's an observer of words And even when the observer and ostensibly what we'd imagine to be the person controlling the words is like, I'm not going to say like anymore. I'm going to speak without saying like. And then I observe myself saying like in every other sentence, contrary to my intention. It kind of becomes apparent that, you know, this process involved in speaking is not exactly one and the same with my locus of control, my sense of agency, and the thing that's experiencing. But I was talking earlier about, you know, when I say I'm just me, I'm Ben Bennett, normal, just normal experience, normal reality. I'm just here being myself, experiencing reality. Or here's a pair of sunglasses and a temple card someone he put up on the fence post. I think I'm gonna probably take these sunglasses. Well, I'm gonna try them on anyhow. They're comfortable. They lend the world a nice kind of amber hue. I need another pair of sunglasses for the times when I'm driving, or just when it's, you know, bright out, because the pair that I have is falling apart. And it's possible that the owner of these sunglasses will return and get them. But I'm guessing that that's a less than 50% chance. It seems more likely that that before that happens, some other stranger will come and pick them up. Or that they just kind of fall in the ground and over time become buried in the earth and just sit there. And so I'm deciding to benefit myself, Ben Bennett, in the future, and, you know, in the present as well, as you can see from my now more stylish appearance. By taking ownership of these sunglasses, I feel a lot of gratitude for these sunglasses coming into my life, and I empathize with the person who lost these sunglasses. I empathize with their feeling of loss. But in the name of, like, I guess in the name of utility, and I'm choosing to adopt these sunglasses, and I do so in accordance with my moral program. And in a selfish sense, I'm benefiting myself, but I also benefit myself with that comes with the intention of benefiting the rest of the world as well, and knowing that perhaps by having to strain my eyes less and having to squint less when it's really sunny out. I may be benefiting my level of stress. I might be, I'll be contributing to my level of comfort and less stress that may leave me small amounts of additional energy with which I can contribute to the world. That's my intention anyhow with adopting these sunglasses. And also I also may be benefiting, well, first myself by maybe looking more fashionable, and it's interesting. It's like I'm adorning the body that's the kind of external container of Bennett. I'm adorning the body with these sunglasses that people who know me will notice. People external to my body will observe the sunglasses on my head, such as you may be doing now. And they're another extension of the self, in that there was a volition involved in adopting the sunglasses and putting them on the head and continuing to keep them on the head. And people see the object and see it as evidence of that volition, and see it as a kind of evidence of a choice-making apparatus. And in some very small way, that will have some effect on their own subjectivity. There will be some small part of people who observe me wearing these sunglasses that will perhaps reconstruct in their mind possible decision-making processes that this other self, Bennett, went through in choosing to wear these sunglasses. And also maybe more importantly, constructing a mental model of my decision-making process in choosing these particular sunglasses, because it's usually assumed in this society in which we're exposed to an enormous amount of consumer choice, especially in the realm of apparel and accessories, that it's assumed that, well, I mean, it's true that a maybe very complex decision-making process goes into choosing what you adorn your body with. And it can involve an enormous amount of factors, including the comfort and utility of the particular piece of apparel or accessory, the cost of it to you, and its appearance, but probably most importantly, what's involved in choosing what you put on your body is is creating mental models of what other people's experience will be when they observe your body with these other adornments on it. You know, when I put on a piece of clothing, and especially if I know I'm going to be interacting with other people, or at least be being seen by other people, I can't help but imagine the minds of other people and imagine what type of thoughts they might have, what type of experience they might have, what type of perception they have, what type of perception of me they would have, what type of mental model of me might they be constructing when they observe me wearing a particular piece of clothing or sunglasses. I'm going to take these sunglasses off because it's not bright out. And now the world looks relatively blue in hue because I started to get used to the amber hue, the amber tint of the sunglasses. And I'm feeling aware of just a slight sense of humorous self-awareness of just the way that I went on for a pretty long time just talking about this from just like relating to these sunglasses that I just found, and going off on the psychology of it, the social psychology of the sunglasses. While I was wearing them and filming myself wearing them, and there was something like slightly humorous about that to me, but not without also being interesting and profound, and to me feeling like kind of like a fresh like mental discovery in myself or something like that, like a kind of knowledge emerging in my own head that I hadn't been thinking about before, really. But then at some point I started to feel this. I started to experience that humor, that sense of humor, as the sense of humor as being outside of myself, and feeling like it's starting to feel a little bit dissociated from the core of experience here, from the core of locus of control here, in a way that led me to let go of it. And like a shorthand way to describe that experience would be like, would be that I sensed the humor to be getting cheesy. There's a horse. Or like kind of smug, or like there's like too kind of clever or something. Cheesy the humor like starting to feel cheesy to me, and that it started to not feel that authentic or genuine anymore, or that it was time to let go of it in order to reconnect with a more authentic self, by which I just mean to continue speaking from a place that is at least closer to the core of what I'm perceiving as myself. And remembering back to what I was talking about before I found the sunglasses, I was talking about this activity of saying like I'm me, I'm Ben Bennett, this is myself, and how that kind of draws a kind of attention to this experience of selfhood that can have a slightly dissociative effect. Not dissociative in a not in a negative sense, but not of just being like, of the identification of self being like not exclusive, like what I am identifying with, what the experiencer here identifies with is not totally exclusive to the self that is Ben Bennett. And even as I hear myself say those words, I'm aware of the quality of them being, in some sense, like just words that signify a very complex web of concepts. And I'm remembering now how I was talking about how I felt completely normal, like I'm just having an ordinary experience, just having an ordinary experience of being myself here in the world. I think that's true, but also there's something a little unordinary, and I mean there's the behavior that I'm doing, which is walking for a long time and talking to a camera, which is pretty extraordinary. Not really extraordinary, but like that's a behavior that, like, as I'm experiencing it now, it seems it feels a little removed from what I'm thinking of as normal life. And so I could say now that the experience that I'm having now is in some sense slightly removed from normal life, as I conceive of normal life as being something different outside of this experience, as normal life as being like something that's more concerned with practicalities and day-to-day survival and communication and socializing and taking care of the vicissitudes, as they say, of life. Just those things that you have to do in order to, I guess, as you could say, like, maintain the life that you're living. And I could say that what I'm doing now is removed from that, and that it's of course not necessary for anyone to survive, and additionally it seems to fall outside of the typical realms of utility and usefulness for society, and for myself. There's some room to be debated about that, of course. And so it's kind of free from those vicissitudes, and so is my mental state largely right now. But in another sense, I see this as very important work for my life, as well as the world. In that it's like I think it is a realm where the chances of discovering fresh meaning in life are raised. And the possibility of communicating those fresh meanings is raised. And the possibility of probing further into the horizons of meaning, and probing into the horizons of knowledge, and the horizons of truth, and the horizons of morality. And probing into the horizons of our understanding of consciousness, and our probing the boundaries of our conceptions of our self. I see this as a realm where all of that can flourish. In a specific way that I haven't encountered elsewhere. Of course, what I'm doing is heavily dependent on work that many other people are doing in many different fields, and I hope for it to be able to complement, integrate and also to bring more directly to direct experience ideas which can be communicated relatively easily conceptually, ideas which might be grasped relatively easily conceptually, and I realized that I am indeed dealing in concepts here. But as I have this experience of dealing in concepts, I'm at times experiencing a direct reality of those concepts, or experiencing experiencing the ways in which those concepts interrelate with my subjective experience, which is to say that how these concepts shape reality as experienced subjectively, which in a certain sense is the most fundamental thing that's available, to me and to you, our subjective experience as being as influenced by concepts. Often mediated by concepts. But at times, I don't know if this is happening for you, but at times for me, I'm directly experiencing the experience of conceptualizing. While I'm conceptualizing about experience, I'm also experiencing conceptualizing. And it's my hope that through this combination of experiencing, conceptualizing, and communicating, that I might facilitate this same sort of experience for you. And as I say that, as I say the word "you," I wonder it's funny because I mentally, when I began the last sentence, I think that I had a desire for the selfhood of you and the selfhood of me to somehow be conjoined, to experience a merger, to experience directly a kind of intersubjectivity. And I think I may have been guiding my thoughts towards in a way that might facilitate experiencing that reality, or guiding my thoughts in a way that might confirm that belief that I wanted to have, or that I wanted to experience. But as I began saying it, I started to question. I started to, it's like I can't really experience what it's like to be you, but like, so like the selfhood that's Bennett here definitely can't. Alright, so returning now after batteries died. Not sure how long I was going on talking with batteries dead, but I don't think it was very long because with the camera pointed at myself like it is, I can see the little red indicator LED that the camera's filming. So I don't think I went on very long before I noticed. So I put some fresh batteries in. I was talking about something about the difference between you and I, and having this desire to feel connection between you and I, like a real like kind of like merged experience or something like that. But that doesn't, I don't know if that makes a whole lot of sense, because what I am and what you are they're concepts, they're complex webs of concepts that make up an identity. And it's like I feel like it's like that. It's like that web of concepts itself is kind of like the realm in which an experience like there's a consciousness that is kind of circulating and contained within this web of concepts that creates an identity. And if and that consciousness that's like within that container is kind of like experiencing itself, or like the consciousness in the web is like, that's the web of concepts experiencing itself as this identity. And like, for instance, and it wouldn't be possible, say, for me, like what me, like the identity that is me, Ben Bennett, to like somehow exist inside of the web of concepts that is you, that is your identity, without just entirely being you. And I would not in any way be me anymore, because like the more that I am able to be inside your experience, the more that I would actually be you and become your identity. And as such, that would be there would not be room for me to exist as Ben Bennett. Like, we could, it's as if like the extent to which your identity and my identity can merge, I think is only like can go about up to like, you know, very like intense communication and interaction, like intimate interaction or something like that. Exchange of concepts, like bouncing, like I'll you know, through communication. And like through that process, parts of concepts that were you might make their way in and kind of like integrate a little bit with what the web of concepts that is me, and vice versa. And so like that is actually a form of merging consciousness. But it's like but it's like I could never experience your subjectivity because there's not like a there's I don't think there's like a way to experience another person's subjectivity really, because it would depend on you would necessarily have to identify with that identity in order to experience that subjectivity, because like it seems to me like the phenomenon of individual subjectivity, that is to say this experience of me being Ben Bennett and not somebody else, is completely dependent on how much I identify as Ben Bennett. And like I don't know how to express this. My mind just like kind of went through it kind of raced through this certain like comprehension of how consciousness and identity and subjectivity work. And I'm having a really hard time trying to figure out how to express it in words. And just like in that past silence, I was it's like that train of thought kind of like revolved on itself and swallowed its own tail, and then I was just kind of left with nothing. Nothing but, just an experience that's simultaneously ordinary and not. And for a moment I kind of just like let go of the I kind of stopped trying to think about how to express it, and I wondered, and then I wondered if somehow in the lack of talking something could get transmitted. But even now, as I'm talking, the things I'm saying like are striking me as somehow problematic. Like just even in saying the word transmitted kind of stimulates it might stimulate a kind of thinking that prevents and this is okay, I think. Don't judge me for actually we'll just don't judge these silences. As being anything. And don't and similarly don't take these words to be anything either. This smells really good. Damn, that smells good. This plant. I don't know what it is. It's something in the mint family because it has a square stem. Opposite stems. And these like bell-shaped flowers. Something in the mint family, and it smells incredible. Damn, that smells good. But I wonder if I think I may have lost a stream of concentration or something. May have lost focus. And so well, that's okay, because, well, I don't know. I don't know if it's okay, but whether it is or not, here I am having another ordinary experience of being myself. There you are. You're having just this ordinary experience of being yourself. There you are. You're you. You're yourself and nothing more, and maybe we should really just drop this whole notion of something greater than ourselves, or maybe we should just like stop this quest to like have an opening up experience, you know. we don't need it. You know, you're just you, and I'm me, and you know, we'll just go on in the world and interact with other people, and we'll have interactions and transactions, and you know, obviously it's me here talking and you listening, and you know, not any other way. I'm a solid self, you know. I can look at my own body, and I can see my own body. And you can presumably do the same. I guess and if I look at a mirror, I can see my own face. Or if I, you know, watch this YouTube video, I can see my own face, and you know, or a reproduction of it, anyhow. And yeah, as separate selves, we need to look out for ourselves and our interests and our own happiness. It's funny that it's not funny, but I'm continuing to talk now because I'm involved in this process of walking and talking for 4 hours, and there was a time earlier, after about an hour of talking, when I felt a sense of like satisfaction at the mental and emotional state that I had reached, that felt like an opening up of my consciousness, and I felt like that was a sort of nice achievement of my state of mind, and I felt satisfied, and like I could, and then there was like a little part of me that sensed that achievement and was like, okay, we could stop now, like you did good, because then, like, you know, following that, then, you know, that experience has to kind of change, go away, and then you have the next experience. And like a part of me like wanted to cling on to that opening up experience, and not return to like back to ordinary experience or something, but like very quickly because I you know, I quickly remembered that I'm involved in this process where every time I go 4 hours about, that I had much more to go, and then I wanted to continue talking in order to stay faithful to the process. Realizing that, like, made me have to quickly just accept the moment that I was in then, the experience that I was having then, which you know, I was at first perceiving as like ordinariness, ordinary life, ordinary, boring, being me. But as soon as I, like, you know, realized that I just had to accept that and continue in that experience, like the ordinariness of it seemed well, it became like the ordinariness of it became extraordinary, or it became kind of extraordinary that this is my ordinary experience. And right now I've been describing something that happened in the past, and I was describing an experience in the past in which I became really embracing of the present moment, and remembering that just kind of, it just occurred to me that what would it feel like to do the same thing right now? And so now I find myself describing an experience that a thought experience that I had just a few seconds ago. And in that last sentence that I just said now, I described an experience that was even closer to my present experience of talking. And I'm just gonna like hang back here so that I can get away from other people around, so that I can concentrate. I guess that's what I'm doing. But or like, yeah, not to like not get distracted into like, I don't want to partition part of my mind off into being cognizant of my image of self in relation to other people IRL right now. And so I can just like, oh, there's another fucking bikers.
Well, on my way back, I was getting kind of cocky.
I was just like, I was being a little facetious when I said fucking bikers. I was not really being serious about that annoyance. Just like, but actually like wanting some IRL solitude in order that I can like kind of focus on this communicative process with you. I'm back at this kind of starting point where I just began that sentence now, with nothing to say again. But I can maybe focus some energy on not feeling annoyed by like this truck driving past me and the presence of other people. Yeah, I have. Maybe I feel a little distracted now, like just having like these other people like walk past me talking or something, like maybe that was distracting, and having this truck and these people on bikes. And like having like possibly having this this feeling of not wanting the present experience, or wanting the present experience to be different, or yeah, a feeling of annoyance. But I think soon enough I'll probably be in a somewhat less populated area of this park. Like maybe like it's as if part of me like is rejecting having to deal with any little facet of external reality or like normal life or elements of the external world that are not in my control. And that's like something that and it seems like that's always going to be present, like no matter you know how many times I have an experience where my sense of self seems to expand into something greater, and my my consciousness seems to like zoom in and out simultaneously into infinite regress. It seems like there's always going to be circumstances that interrupt that, and in which I have to relate to the rest of the world as the contained, localized self of Ben Bennett. Like it seems totally unavoidable. And so I think it would be a big mistake to grasp onto certain experiences and like imbue them in my create a concept of those experience, an abstracted concept of those experience as being more desirable than other experiences that I might be having, in a way that would, you know, cause me a certain kind of unproductive distress or unproductive stress when faced with various life circumstances.
Or we'd be kicked out of the CACC because it would be an unfair recruiting.
Yeah, like for example, like every time I, like not every time, but walking past a person having another conversation and just like overhearing just like a fragment of their conversation, like my mind jumps onto it and starts to like think about what they were saying and relate it to other knowledge and experience that I have in the world. And even like somehow start to evaluate the worth of the words that that person is saying somehow, or the importance or something like that, which is a really weird thing to do when I think about it. It's like I think what I'm noticing is that in this instance of walking and talking, it's as if any experience that I had that I experienced as positive, or that I judged as positive or as successful, like without being fully conscious of it, I think that I judged certain experiences as positive, and I judged certain like parts of this process that I'm doing as being like somehow successful within the process, or being special, or somehow elevated above other parts of this process. And I'm noticing that coming back to me in the form of having a tendency to experience or judge other experiences or parts of this process as being negative, like in almost equivalent amount that I'm judging other things as being positive. And that seems like that there's something about this process that's revealing that to me. And what I'm being reminded of is that like now I'm feeling that like no like particular things that happen within this framework of walking and talking, no particular words said, no particular ideas expressed, no realizations had, no like none of them are ultimately inherently better than any of the other ones. And that's why I keep doing this for 4 hours.
For us to be a member of the Coaches Association.
Because it forces me to just like reckon with every single experience that I have within these 4 hours. Because I have to keep talking and like keep revealing my thought process, and it reveals not only my thoughts, but it also reveals the emotions that I'm having by way of both the content and the quality of what I'm saying, and the affect with which I say it. And so I become aware of myself, like my thoughts and my emotions and my experience, in a way that's different from everyday life, where I'm ostensibly free from this 4-hour framework, this 4-hour restriction that I'm compelling myself to continue for 4 hours. And it like this feels like it's revealing something really important about life to me. Like, I mean, I don't think it's like realistically possible to completely place every aspect of my life and every moment of my entire waking existence in terms of one unchanging framework, such as like what walking talking is. Just because of like the ever changing nature of my experience and understanding of reality. But like this at least, you know, this just like kind of like simple framework that I set up, which is, you know, relatively like lenient. It's not like I do these every day or even on a regular basis, but it's 4 hours every time, and I walk I walk and talk for 4 hours. It's definitely true that framework is making me able to get a kind of longer, a higher perspective on the changing nature of my experience than I might otherwise have. And you know, at least for now, like for this, at least for the duration of this, it does feel like my awareness of all sorts of things, like my awareness of my thought process, awareness of my emotional state, my awareness of my concept of identity, and awareness of the quality of my own consciousness, like all of that stuff is able to be elevated in a certain sense as I go through this process. But that's funny that I like refer to it as elevated, because in a way I just said that like none of it was inherently, ultimately better or worse than anything else. But it's like to be able, it's like I noticed an effect that I could describe as a karmic effect, in that in the less than totally conscious evaluation of a certain experience as positive, later on, that very mental structure that I created at that time later on became the cause of a negative emotional reaction. And I wouldn't have, if I weren't going through this process, I don't think I would have become aware of that connection. And what I'm talking about is, you know, like, for a lot of the first portion of this video, in which I was walking in relative isolation from other people and human activity, I was having realizations, and I'm not going to denigrate the kind of like revelatory quality of those realizations, or like the opening up, expansive feeling of that. but by subsequently creating for myself a memory of that experience, which is at one remove from the experience itself. It's an abstraction of that experience, and somehow filing that away in my mind as a positive later on, when I was walking and faced with the reality of more people walking past me, having conversations, people biking by, truck driving by, and experiencing my mind kind of get pulled in other directions, where I might be cognizant of my real life relation to these other strangers passing by, or cognizant of my appearance, my physical appearance to them, or having to also like let into my awareness my mental construction of what their perception of seeing and hearing me walking here talking to the camera would be. You know, I'm becoming aware of my. I'm becoming socially aware of my real life impact on another person's consciousness that observes me in real life here, and like that's something I didn't really have control over. Like as now, there's people running by, and so experiencing that as I experienced that as, or at least I perceive it as a distraction from something that I have filed away as a good thing, or that I've associated as a positive. And so then I had that experience as being negative, and like I just like I felt a strong link between those two experiences, and the process by which I evaluated those two experiences to be like part of the same thing, or like two sides of the same coin, two sides of the same process, two sides of the same evaluative process. And you might note that now I'm remarking on this process in itself, and I seem to be making a positive association with it. I seem to be evaluating this process as a positive. I seem to be evaluating this walking and talking for 4 hours as a positive thing, because of what it reveals to me about this what I referred to earlier as a karmic linkage, or a karmic effect, this linkage of two evaluative processes, and if I might extrapolate how that karmic effect works, I think it would really behoove me to not just blindly have a positive, like, emotional connection with this thing of walking and talking, and to elevate it above the rest of life, which I'm doubtlessly going to have to deal with after I end this, after I turn off the camera. I can imagine this scenario, and I've probably experienced something like this many times, and maybe you have too, where you just have a fantastic experience that's like feels like enlightening, enriching. Like you feel like you've become a larger person because of this experience, and then you like you get back home or something, and then like there's something wrong. Like there's some kind of mess. Like it could be physically, it could be like interpersonally. There's some mess in your life that you have to deal with, that like while you were out there having this enlightening experience, like there are things piling up that you weren't dealing with, and now you return and I gotta deal with this. I gotta clean up my room or something. I gotta answer all these emails or something like that. Somebody's upset with me. Somebody that I love is like upset with me or feeling like kind of disconnected or something like that. And then you like have kind of like and then you have kind of like a rejecting kind of response to that. Like you're like, damn, like now I got to deal with this. Even when I just had this like wonderful, like expansive sense of self and wonder of the nature of reality or something like that, or just like this wonderful experience, and now I got to deal with this. Like in a way that I'm sometimes afraid to talk to other people about. I'm just like secretly like I'm just like not that like excited about experiences. It's just like I don't care that much about like this experience that you're going to show me. I mean, and it's like, it's not that I don't care or that I don't, it's not that I don't appreciate the sheer wonderment that's like evident in any given experience, but I really don't care to like solidify that experience in an abstraction that I'm going to stick in my head and like stick it in the positive category, such that like the positive side of the scale in my head is like weighed down, and then it's like out of balance, because and then I'm going to have some other experience to corresponding on the negative side, because you always have to have this scale weighed. This scale, the positive, negative, it's a scale in your experience, in your mind, that you have to balance. You can't have the positive without the negative. Like they create each other. But like, I mean, it's okay. It's okay if you want to continue through life having that kind of emotional trajectory that's going to go up and down. It's fine. They are going to even out. But you can do that, and you like, you know, go ahead and experience positivity, and like know that you're also going to experience negativity. But just like I can't take it seriously, you know. I can't take each one so serious. I can't take the like alleged positivity of a certain experience completely seriously, because I know how that creates an imbalance and a dichotomy, and like somehow, and I know that like somehow temporally I'm gonna like I'm gonna experience the other side of it, or even not necessarily just me, but like someone else or something else, or just the nature of experience that exists in the universe. Like it can't all have this quality of positivity, because positivity is one half of this dichotomy. And like we experience positivity is a concept that we associate certain emotions with, that they are emotions that we gravitate towards, that have a certain gravity to them. And there's a perfectly good reason for that, which is evolutionary, about continuing our maintaining the integrity of ourselves, maintaining the bodily integrity of ourselves, continuing forward. Emotions are these physiological phenomena that happen in our body, and our mind is like sensing a process that's happening in our body, and that's an emotion, and we usually link that also with an idea or a concept. It's usually linked to something, to a concept in our mind. And yeah, it's set up to maintain this pattern that is our identity. It's just like inherent in it. But yeah, I was talking about like what I was referring to as like this karmic effect, or this karmic linkage, or something, just between like positive and negative experiences. And I was saying how it's like that doesn't mean you have to avoid positive experiences, because if you're taking that as a reason to avoid positive experiences, it doesn't make that much sense, because the reason that you would be doing that is to avoid the negative consequence, or the negative karmic consequence, the negative flip side of that positivity. So you're avoiding the positivity for the reason that you're actually avoiding the negative consequence of it, which is essentially the same of avoiding negativity, which is essentially the same as like favoring positivity. But which we're going to have to come back and add some qualifications here about. We're going to have to come back and talk more about what positivity and negativity actually mean. But I also want to add that you'll go ahead and continue to experience things, and also go ahead and like create the conditions for yourself for this like meta awareness, this more overview type of experience, this more long view to arise and develop in you. And like those levels can keep going up and up, and I'm talking about like when you have this understanding of a certain positive and a negative being linked, like that does really expand your consciousness in a way that has real substance and real consequences to how you operate in the world, and that is is a real development, and is a real higher up step, in a way that it's like an increasingly complex. It is in fact a deeper understanding of reality than was before it, and there you can point out a real hierarchy between certain levels of consciousness and awareness of like in this case of cause and effect. Like just for example, like I don't know, like I'm trying to think of a good example, like if you were learning how to like invest and trade on the stock market, and you look at the graphs, and you see a certain stock like going up one day, and maybe you would be like, oh, that stock's going up. Or like you look at the graph of its performance in the past month or something, and it's a gain. You might be like, okay, it's going up, therefore that's a good stock to invest in, because I see this behavior of it going up, therefore I'll invest and my investment will grow. And correspondingly, maybe you own another stock and you see its performance going downhill over the course of a month, and you say, this stock is going down, therefore I should sell it, because if I don't, my investment will continue to shrink. But you realize that kind of like that fine granularity of reasoning is not actually effective. Like in the long run, you're not going to make any money by selling stocks when they go down just because they go down, and buying stocks just because they go up, by like, just looking at their performance over a certain time span. But you have to like grow a longer term, you have to grow a larger consciousness, and you have to grow a larger understanding of the cause and effects and all the factors involved in causing those stocks to go up and down. And you have to you have to not give so much significance to their short-term activity, and you have to be aware of their long-term activity and the long-term potential of them in relation to all these complex factors that play into whether particular stocks grow or not, or how fast they grow. And so that's kind of the process of growing and developing as a person in life. Like you gradually become aware of higher and higher levels of cause and effect in the world, and you're able to adapt your behavior to be informed by that understanding. And if you don't, then you're not going to have as good, like things will not go well. things will not go well for you or the people that things will not go well for you if your decisions are, based on like this very like a limited and short-term view of cause and effect, and short-term view of just like the consequences of your actions and so forth, and a short-term view of your own emotional state, your own thought processes. You have to continuously be able to grow and enlarge the scope of your awareness of your own state. Like to be able to experience short-term fluctuations in your emotional state, and you don't react to them immediately, because you understand them to be like temporary and relatively small variants within larger trends that have contributing factors that are of a longer time scale. Like for example, like you start to for example, like dietary things, like you start to have a headache and feel really tired, and you're like, damn, I feel like shit. I need to go eat a fucking like Twinkie, or like I need to go pound a Snickers bar and a Mountain Dew, and so you go and do that, and you get this blast of sugar and caffeine, and like temporarily, like that shitty feeling is averted, and you feel good in a way. But then, like, shortly after, you start to feel like your blood sugar is like, shoots up, feel okay, and then it like crashes later, because you've done this like very reactive and stimulating thing to your body, and thus your emotional state. And so you come crashing back down, and you feel shitty again, maybe even shittier than before, after you, like, a while after you've finished this Snickers and Mountain Dew. And then if you don't have a longer term understanding of nutrition and how what you eat affects you, then you're going to associate eating those things with feeling good, and you're going to be like, damn, those things make me feel good, when in fact what those things are doing is like destabilizing your body's ability to regulate its blood sugar, and thus its emotional state, and your overall health is deteriorating, because neither of these things are nourishing it in a long-term fashion, in a sustainable fashion. They're just like very short-term stimulation. And then but if you start to gain a larger experience, and like somehow you make the jump to be like, oh, actually, like when I pound a Snickers bar and a Mountain Dew, like I always feel shitty like a few hours later or something, and like start to think about, instead of on a scale of hours, start to think about on a scale of days. And then maybe you're like, what about those like, remember those 3 days that I had where I actually like ate I ate like like I had like eggs and vegetables, and I had like a balanced meal full of protein and fiber and a reasonable amount of carbs and vegetables that give me a variety of nutrients that my body needs to regulate various processes. I remember those 3 days, I didn't feel shitty, or like, at the end of those 3 days, I felt like, I felt pretty decent like the whole day, without drinking Mountain Dew or Snickers. And then like you can start to put it together. You start to get a deeper understanding of cause and effect, and you're able then to better regulate your experience to be to avoid the negative experiences. And that keeps on, like, those levels of scope and scale keep going up and up and up, and they apply to a lot more things than just like eating or drugs or stimulation. Like they apply to even how you think and how you evaluate things and how you categorize your experience. And like it takes a little bit of a leap to start thinking on a longer time scale, just a larger scope. And sometimes you might be starting to think on a scope that's like bigger than most of the people around you. And so, like, your deep intuition, if that happens, like your deep intuition, the part of you that is aware of this larger scope, this larger cause and effect, this like this kind of karmic linkage, that might be telling you to behave in ways that other people don't understand, because they're not yet able to think on that scope, or maybe they're choosing not to. And so that can sometimes present a challenge in just in the realm of like interacting with people, which is something you usually need to do in order to get by in the world. So it's like it can be hard to function in accordance with a scope and a scale of cause and effect that is larger and higher than the majority of the world, because those actions may not be in agreement, they might be in disagreement with like acceptable, with the behavior that other people have deemed acceptable. And so it's possible that it's likely, in fact, that you'll forego some types of relatively immediate reward, like social reward. It could be financial reward, emotional reward. But if you are indeed aligning yourself with this larger scope, those shouldn't matter too much. Like it might take work to like to disassociate with those rewards emotionally, because like it happens conceptually first, and then but then an emotional link still remains until you do some work to like kind of undermine that. But once you're able to like kind of free yourself with that like emotional bondage to shorter term, smaller scale, smaller scope, like emotional reward system, you know, because like these notions of value also kind of guide the types of like neural reward systems that develop in our mind and in our body. And sometimes it takes some work and time to like to undo those mechanisms. But if you're able to align those things with these higher levels of thinking, these higher levels of scope, it's like the long-term reward grows, and it could be so long. It could be so long that it is beyond the scope of even your own lifetime, and like the reward may not even come back to you per se as an individual, but what you are identifying with as a self has grown to such an extent that like you know that it's going to come back in reality somehow, in existence somehow. And like maybe not for you, maybe for future generations, or maybe so far in the future you can't completely, you're not even sure exactly what reality is going to look like at the material level. Or maybe it's on a scale like so large that it's not even really about human race anymore, or even about biological life, but about existence itself in a more generalized fashion, of aligning yourself with a kind of moral program that's more geared towards contributing to just a reality, a universe that's more devoid of suffering than the one that currently exists. Like, what about that, you know? And when you think about that, and then like, how do you align with that? Like, what behaviors, what modes of thinking can contribute to that? Let me look at what time it is. Oh, let me look at my clock. I'm not sure, trying to just figure out roughly how much longer we got to go here. Alright. Almost another hour. You know, I'm at another one of these. Admittedly, I find myself at another one of these instances where the types of things that I find myself saying, I'm surprised at myself in a pleasant way. I'll admit that these are ideas that have, I suppose, existed in my mind in a very abstract way, but I've never expressed them in words like this before, and I'm pleasantly surprised at with the coherency, with, at least to me, with which they're coming out. I'm like observing myself and judging the way that I'm speaking to be more articulate than the normal way that I'm usually interacting with people in real life, but and it's possible that like in these times when I'm having other conversations, like maybe I'm not fully invested, or that I'm not able to muster the same level of enthusiasm and just like fecundity of thought or something, because I don't know, maybe because certain conversations or situations, I'm like, I'm just like experiencing them as a localized experience that I just don't feel compelled to invest energy into, because I'm thinking about like this, like a larger scope. And that sounds kind of pretentious to me. Like I feel like I sound a little pretentious talking about that. Like this idea that I'm like having conversations with other people, and I'm like as if I'm like thinking on a higher level than them or something. It's possible that could actually be the case, but I don't know. But if that's true, there shouldn't be any reason that I couldn't fully engage in that conversation, you know? Like, I should be able to completely understand where that person's coming from, and I think I do. But it's like, sometimes that person is looking for a kind of reaction, or expecting a kind of reaction, a kind of response that would correspond with the level of cause and effect that they are operating on. But I don't have like the emotional investment in that level of cause and effect, and so like I just don't give that response, or if I do, it's like not wholehearted. And I think I think that I don't think I'm flawed in doing that. Like even if that person is disappointed or upset at not receiving the type of response they might have been expecting, it doesn't mean that it doesn't mean that I don't care about that person. Even on the contrary, it's like I deeply care about that person, and my impulse more is to like, if I can, if there's a way to like somehow help them align more with like a higher understanding of cause and effect, with regard to whatever it is that they're experiencing, whether it be like a difficult emotion, or a positive emotion associated with a certain circumstance, a certain localized situation. I don't know. I don't know if I'm like always very successful at doing that though, and I'm not sure if I'm really trying that hard. Maybe I could be doing better. But like if you ever perceive in me like a certain lack of emotion, or maybe it's like it might be like a lack of an emotional response to a situation or a thing or an idea or something that you do have an emotional response to. I wouldn't want you to think that I'm like really removed. I don't know. In some ways, maybe there is like a kind of detachment, but it just means that I'm like that I'm seeing that particular stimulus as in the context of a longer scale, a larger scope, in which I don't think it would be helpful to react. And I think this like applies for me in the realm of politics a lot. And like it's for example, it's becoming I think in the public, there's a public awareness being raised right now in the United States and in Europe and elsewhere. People are becoming aware of how certain types of reactivity that were considered an appropriate response in the past by them have had a deleterious effect, and over the long run have tended to like strengthen and help to proliferate the perceived negative that those people were reacting against. And this could have been averted if people were responding to this behavior in alignment with like a broader scale, a deeper scope, a deeper understanding of the cause and effect of the action or the behavior or the sentiment that they felt negative towards, and addressing like what we call the more root causes of things, and being able to address them with
I would say take medicine before cardio.
With a less amount of emotional reactivity. Like we're seeing how like we try to take a negative out of, we see a negative in society, and we try to clip that out and throw it away, but it doesn't work because we didn't realize how interconnected we all were. We didn't realize, we weren't quite aware of the nature of the inner connectivity between ourselves and our own actions and what we perceived as negative in society. And so we tried to push it away and cut it out and remove it, but it ended up just strengthening that, and then it came back with a vengeance.
Nice job, ladies.
And it reacted to us with the same kind of perception. It reacted to the them reacted to the us with the same kind of perception of seeing us as them and seeing them as us. And so that's why I do this 4 hours, and I keep talking. Even if I say something that I feel satisfied with, and I feel so satisfied with it that I feel like I could just stop there and quit while I'm ahead and leave things in the positive. And I keep talking even if I'm feeling really negative about what I'm saying, and I keep judging myself. I keep judging what I'm saying as negative, and I feel like I should quit. But instead I keep going, and I just keep facing what it is that I'm perceiving as negative. And every time that I've been having a negative experience while walking and talking, and I just continue walking and talking, and every time that I've been able to continue, a greater understanding has opened up, where I've been able to perceive with a much broader view and deeper understanding what it was that I was perceiving as negative while I was in it, when I was stuck in it. And like by the end of the 4 hours, in retrospect, what was negative was equally positive. It was like just part of a process that leads to positivity, and and completely linked. And for instance, now now I'm in this state where my body is becoming physically tired a little bit, and like in that long pause, I kind of had an experience of being tired of talking or something, and a desire to just go back to regular life where I don't have to continuously talk and be so acutely aware of my thought process in this way, and to kind of like release the pressure of being watched and listened to by people on YouTube. You know, to just like go back to the privacy of my own mind, of being able to have thoughts without expressing them. But I still have, I think about 40 minutes or so to go in the 4 hours. So it's like this framework is you know, I'm still have a choice. I still have a free choice here. Like I of course could choose to just like end now anyways, but I'm making a choice to adhere to a framework that is ultimately mental. It's like a mental framework that I set up for myself and that I have total control over. But I'm choosing to follow that framework and to continue walking and talking here despite a localized feeling of tiredness. And because I have a certain faith in this process that that there is a value to be found here that might actually be a greater value than just like the kind of satisfaction of resting right now. Like I know I'm going to get to rest in an hour or so, or whenever I get back to my home. But the value that I think I may be able to, that I have a faith that it's possible that I could discover in this experience of continuing to walk and talk despite feeling tired of walking and tired of talking. What's going to arise? What am I going to say? What am I going to experience? Is it possible that I'll encounter some level of awareness that kind of transcends my tiredness? And I would say that that's happening now to some extent. Even as I just said those words, it's like I suggested that to myself, and then like I can feel my body being tired, but there's not a mental suffering. There's no mental suffering associated with that. It's just like my body's tired. I'm gonna keep walking till I get home, and that's fine. That's the best decision to make. And the feeling of tired of talking is actually more of a soft reality than is. It's not as unavoidable as the physical tiredness. The feeling fatigued of talking is like, I may indeed be able to have some control over that in the here and now. My mind, I might be able to shift my way of thinking such that I perceive this differently. Like this experience of feeling tired of talking. Like I'm like maybe actually I'm just starting to get into it, you know? Like it might actually just be a mental barrier, and by having this 4 hours structure, that's like a kind of extra thing that helps motivate me to like move beyond that mental barrier. And like I'm doing it now, and I just have to like exercise like a little extra degree of focus, and I can continue to just observe myself talking without any problem, you know, existing, without any discomfort. I just realized I've been holding the camera really close to my face, and you've probably been getting a claustrophobically close view of my mouth or my nose or something like that. I'm using this camera stabilizer has turned out to not be as awkward as I had thought it would be. It's not too heavy to hold. Yes, it doesn't seem to be like swinging about too much. It kind of looks like the up and down motion of me walking is still being transmitted to the camera in a way that might be a little jerky still, and like I would hope that there'd be a camera stabilizer somehow able to like eliminate that jerky up and down thing every time I take a step. But it seems like it's probably eliminating at least some of the side-to-side jerkiness that we might be experiencing if I were just holding the camera by hand. Maybe at some point towards the end of this, maybe at the end of this video, if I am on the ball enough to stop the video before the SD card or the batteries run out, I'll take it off of the camera stabilizer and film the camera stabilizer itself, which I'm just imagining might be an interesting experience, because I don't think in this video you've seen I don't think you can see the camera stabilizer, but it's like the vehicle of your seeing. It's the vehicle of this representation. It's like your body right now. It's like an extension of your body into the world that I'm inhabiting. And this camera the camera lens is like your eye into this world, and the camera stabilizer being your body. But like, you know, the camera doesn't really. I'm not turning the camera downward and backward at its own body. I mean, of course, the camera doesn't have the flexibility to turn its lens back on itself on the body of the camera, but I can detach the camera from the stabilizer, which the stabilizer is acting like the body of the camera or an extension of the body of the camera, like it's stabilizing device, like its legs or something, or maybe it's like, yeah, maybe it's like its legs, or the camera's like abdomen or something. So like maybe at the end of this video I'll turn the camera towards that, and then that might be, I mean, I'm hyping up this experience for you, but it might be interesting having, if you've, like, you know, watched a long time here. I wonder if it's like an experience that might be slightly akin to like looking at your own body after like a long period of not or something, or maybe looking, like turning to look at your own body and discovering that it's something that you weren't expecting, discovering that you were something else, something mechanical. It seems like it's tilted up a little bit. Like the way that, however I arranged the weight on this camera stabilizer. This might be alienating for you right now because you can't see what I'm talking about. And it's like I'm talking about your own body without you being able to look at it. That's kind of weird. But its natural balance point is with the camera angled up slightly, which works in this situation because I can just hold it with my arm out at a comfortable level, and it'll point more or less towards my face. I might just like play around with the camera stabilizer a little bit here. See if we can get it to do some smooth views. The only problem with this thing is it doesn't really like, you can't really like you can't really smoothly control the up and down angle. I'm sure there's a fancier way to describe the up and down angle of a camera. You can only it only makes things smooth like rotationally, or like when it goes like that, like when it's really like jerking around, it makes what would otherwise be jerking happen slower and smoothly. Which this is another example. This is actually another example of being able to expand your scope of understanding. It's analogous in a way. So like the camera stabilizer is like aligning your behavior with a deeper scope of cause and effect, and whereas a deeper cause and effect than what's analogous to holding the camera by hand. Holding the camera by hand means that the camera picks up all of each of my small bodily motions with my hand and my body, and it moves at the fast immediately. It moves in immediate fast, fine granularity, in accordance with my fast and small grain bodily movements as I'm walking. And so that translates to jerkiness. And when there's jerkiness, you can't see the picture as clearly. You can't see reality as clearly. because it's moving so much. It's moving so fast back and forth. It's like makes you dizzy or nauseous, and like gives you a headache, and it's hard to look at, and so you can't see reality as clearly. But with what the camera stabilizer does is it doesn't react as quick. All it does is slow down the camera's reaction. It slows down the camera's movement. It's movement in relation to my body, so that the movements are smoothed out, and they correspond with a longer time scale of my bodily movements than the jerkiness of just the handheld camera. I mean, this particular camera stabilizer might actually not be the best example of this, because I'm not sure how well it's actually working, but getting distracted by all these other people passing me by. I'm getting distracted also by my own image of myself holding the camera on a stabilizer as projected into the minds of the passers-by. Know what I'm saying? Which is like, in my mind, maybe a little more impactful than a guy just holding a small handheld camera. So that's a thing. So I'm just saying, like, a camera stabilizer is like analogous. You're able to see more clearly. You're able to see more smoothly, because the camera's not reacting as quickly to the movements. It still moves with me, but it's just aligned at a longer time scale, and that's like aligning your level of consciousness and your level of awareness with a longer time scale, or a larger scope of reality, a deeper understanding, deeper levels of cause and effect. So I'm just like recommending to find ways of doing that, and like and to like pay attention to when you have these intuitions about these large scale processes, these long time frame things. Pay attention to them. Oh, here's some cool velvet tooth. This mushroom. Look at that. Damn. That's sick. Look at that spore surface. That is ill. Damn, look at these. Look at these turkey tails. Anyhow, talk about not emotional reacting. Damn, look at these false turkey tails. Damn. Cool. Anyhow, yeah. As I was talking about, like, not reacting to... What the fuck are these? What the fuck? Look at that. It's like, what is this? What the fuck? I don't know this mushroom. Cool. It's soft. It's red. Is it a beefsteak polypore? I doubt it. That'd be too lucky. That'd be too good to be true. Is this a beefsteak polypore? It's not, is it? Because those are like delicious. Even though I don't know if I think maybe I had them once. Maybe I had them once. Anyhow, I'm gonna take it home and see if I can maybe identify it. I'd love to read your comments as to how well this camera stabilizer worked, if it made a difference, as opposed to the handheld thing. Is it an improvement? Is this also, is this camera view, when I'm pointing at myself like this, or just like, if you've watched like a large segment of this video, or ideally the entire video, how's the camera angle? Is it like, is it too claustrophobic being this close to my face? Because I've considered the possibility of trying to get some kind of contraption that'll hold the camera like farther away from me but still point it at myself. Essentially some kind of selfie stick. But I think the selfie stick, I would also want to have some kind of camera stabilizer on so that it's not too jerky, of course, as we just talked about. So I'd be interested to read your comments about that. What time is it? There's I have a Patreon account. I think it's, what is it? I can't remember if it's patreon.com/Benjamin Bennett or if it's /sitting and smiling. It might be /Benjamin Bennett. I forget. But if for some reason you felt like giving me money, you could do that. I guess I'm not making much of a case for that. I think I do have a good case for that. I do have a good case for that, but I'm feeling lazy about diving into that right now. Just doesn't sound fun. And maybe I have thoughts about talking about that as being somehow compromising the integrity of this video or something.